It is my absolute pleasure to be here today with Leila Botham. How are you, Leila?
I'm really good, Amy. Lovely to be here.
It's awesome to have you. So, for those that don't know Leila, Leila is a career and leadership coach, and she's the founder of This Corporate Life. So, I'm really excited to have Leila on to talk a little bit about her journey and how she went from the corporate space now into her own business. So, thanks for being here, Leila.
Thank you for having me. Really excited.
Awesome. So I'd love to sort of, hear a little bit about your story, where things got started for you. So tell me a little bit about, your corporate career and what led you into wanting to actually start your own career and leadership coaching business.
Sure. So I've been in senior and executive roles for probably the past 10 years or so.
Yeah.
And I've led all sorts of different teams, from customer service to sales and marketing teams, creative, tech, product, change management teams. And the one thing I loved working across all of those different disciplines was leading people and coaching and mentoring them to be able to achieve their goals. And what I love most is when they can actually achieve things that they didn't even think was possible. So it was always something I'd wanted to do. And I guess it was sort of the fuel. It was the way I was able to split the atom to constantly want to go back to work and be energized by work, was actually that investment that I was making in the people and my peers I was working and coaching. So I always knew I wanted to move into it. It was just about making the leap, wasn't it?
Yeah. And how long were you thinking about starting your own business when you're working in the corporate space before you actually pulled the trigger?
Oh my gosh. Years.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked across quite a few different countries. So I worked in the UK, I've worked in the Middle East, in Southeast Asia. And when I was leaving the UK 6 or 7 years ago, my amazing bosses were sort of like, oh, why would you go work for someone else? Why don't you go off and do your own thing? And I was like, the panic. The idea that I would go do that. I just didn't feel capable. I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing. And so since then, since they planted the seed that they had the faith in me at, I think, 33, they're like, why are you going to go work for someone else? You could do it yourself. And it's taken me that long to pull it together and do it.
Yeah. And it's really interesting to hear that because, in your corporate career, you're super accomplished. You run massive teams. You have worked with some really high caliber people and executives and organizations as well. And so I think it's good for anyone sort of listening to this as well to hear that, because it's kind of a whole new world when you do start your own business and you do make that leap of faith, as you sort of put it, to make that happen for yourself. And so what were, I guess, some of the initial sort of challenges or problems that you faced when you sort of realized, okay, everyone's telling me to do this, I'm ready to go do this now? Like, what were some of the things that came up for you?
It was all mental, right? Like, it was all a mental game. So when I finally, first I had to let go of this idea that I was a face of a large corporation, or that I was part of a team of 50 consultants where I work now, or that I'd have a team of 100, 120 working underneath me. And I sort of was used to it. I called it my armor. I was used to having this big corporate career as my armor. And the idea of going out alone, on going out on off my own experience and sharing that with people was terrifying. And imposter syndrome is real, exists, but it's a mindset. And it was just one of those things where as soon as I flicked the switch and just put myself out there, I was like, what are you doing, Leila? You could have been doing this for ages. We just hold ourselves back. So for me, it was the mental leap and the emotional commitment you make to those organizations that you work for or your clients, and to move into something different. It was that for me.
Yeah. I know, since we've worked together and you've got things happening and you've launched your business, what are some of the things that maybe you didn't expect when you first started in your own business compared to what was happening in your corporate life?
I didn't expect the incredible support that I've had from the network of people I've built over my career. So what's strange is that I hadn't even got a website up yet or anything like that, but I was using your LinkedIn strategies, Amy. And I made an announcement on LinkedIn that I was making the leap and that I was starting my own business, and it was in this particular area.
Mm-hmm.
And the response was overwhelming. From that one post, I had over a dozen different people reach out to me and want to work with me in whatever capacity they could. And I hadn't even really worked out my product mix yet. I was like, okay, sure, let's have a call. So I think, you really do reap what you sow. And I think sometimes you have to have faith in ourselves that when you have been working consistently and have created these relationships and these professional relationships throughout your career, they do come back to support you. So that was a really wonderful realization.
Yeah. And I loved working through that with you about the whole starting before you're ready. It's like, we do not need a website right now. We just need to get it out there and start selling. So it was awesome that that happened for you, and to have that much support, come through just from one post is pretty awesome. So yeah, it was really, really cool to see. That's great. And so what are you most looking forward to? You're working with a few people now. So just so everyone's sort of clear on what you do, like, who are you working with and how are you helping them?
So really, I work with people who are generally at a crunch point. So professionally, they're wanting to make a shift. They're wanting to make a change, potentially pivoting their career. Maybe they're feeling a bit blocked in their current career. And I effectively help them hack the system, because the corporate world is a system. There's a language, there's a cadence, and there's a way to hack that, because that system isn't always engineered for us. There are horror. And so especially, I'm not going to pull diversity cards here, but I've got a few myself. Systems aren't always built for us. So how do you hack your way around that? It's not, we believe that the world, a lot of people believe, I should say, that it's a meritocracy, and people go in with this real sort of hard work ethic. And I'm a hard worker myself. But hard work alone doesn't pay off. So what other elements do you need to put together in your career strategy to get the results you want? And that's how I work with people. Yeah, amazing. And,
you're an incredible leader yourself. And I know that you impart a lot of that experience on the people that you work with as well, because, you have been through a lot of what they're about to go through. And so you can really, help them to see the path ahead. And like you said, to really sort of hack the system so they can really shortcut their own progress, which is really, really awesome.
Absolutely. I believe that diversity is key. I believe we need, I've spent the past 10 years of my life in a lot of boardrooms. And most of the time I'm the only woman. Most of the time I'm definitely the only brown woman. And often I'm the youngest person in the room. And it's that lack of diversity that means I've sat in boardrooms in many different industries, many different countries, and the ideas are the same. The ways of working, the business world, they work all very similarly. They're all incentivized quite similarly, and it means you get the same results. And we need new leadership. And I'm really excited about that new wave of leadership, and that's what I want to work with.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, you mentioned the mindset was a big piece for you as well in getting started. And so I'm curious to know, like, knowing what you know now that you've launched, you've got clients, you're now in your own business, what were some of the beliefs that you kind of personally had to shift in order to make that happen?
That I was going to have to do it all myself. And the number one lesson with Amy was like, no, you do not do it all yourself. So I'd actually engaged a virtual assistant before I even started the business, because I know I have a really good understanding of what my weaknesses are. And so I hired someone to take care of those. And it's not that I couldn't do those things. It's like, I don't enjoy it. And I really have to force myself to do it. So simple things like, someone to support me on the admin, someone to help me with the finances, those sorts of things, because what I'm great at is coaching people and driving people towards the goals and the success they want to have. What I'm not great at is, surprise, surprise, invoicing. So if you engage with, trust me, they're getting sent from someone else. So it's things like that. Like, I think the idea that I don't have to be an expert in everything, and I don't have to do everything myself. And the other piece would be self-investment and investing. So it's not that you're earning an income anymore. you're running a business, and you need to be able to invest in that business and think of it. Well, I need to think of it as separately to myself.
Yeah.
So that were the sort of main things.
Yeah, awesome. And how does it make you feel knowing that you've got someone there to support you? You've already got a team member now.
I love it. I love, and I only had this conversation with her today, in that, she's like, oh, I hope that, I'm performing how you want me to. And I was like, stop thinking about output. If there's an issue with output, we'll talk about it. I'm like, but your value, your intrinsic value is that I'm a solo entrepreneur at the moment. You're the person that has incredible insight into my target market, passionate about what I'm doing, and you're someone I can share the energy with. And I think that's been something I didn't expect to be so helpful, just to have someone to bounce those ideas off, that is invested in the company like I am as well.
Yeah, I know you were in a corporate environment where you were really, really, probably to the point of burnout, like many people are when they get to a really high level in corporate. It does take a lot of your energy and your mental bandwidth as well as your time. So how is life like for you now in that, when you're working in your own business? Like, what has that transition been for you?
I'm so energized.
Yeah.
And what I love is I can get up and I'll be inspired by something at 5 a.m. and I'm up out of bed and I'm like, okay, let's go. And all of a sudden by 6:30, I'm making my coffee or something. And I'm like, oh, I've done a good chunk of what I needed to do for today. I would say that the mental load is much lower because, you've got all those cliches of do something you love and you never work a day in your life. But it's more that I'm doing things that don't rub against my my innate capabilities, my values. They're things that energize me instead of having to tick boxes because I work in a business and it's, end of financial year, or it's, our owners are coming out from America and we have to do X, Y, Z. Like I'm doing stuff like I'm going to help people. I want to help people. And I don't, I'm not reporting to shareholders on, the New York Stock Exchange. I'm accountable to people I'm helping every day in their lives.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think, one of the things that I hear a lot as well is that, when you reach a high level in corporate, that comes with either a high day rate or a high salary or something as well. And so, that gap between starting your own business and actually supporting yourself once you're used to earning, a higher level of income, it can get a little bit wide. And so, you don't have to share price points or anything like that around how people work with you. But how has that transition been for you, I guess, from a financial point of view? Can you see the road ahead in terms of being able to have that lifestyle as well as earn an income, or has it been a trade-off for you?
I expected it to be a trade-off, but it hasn't actually manifested that way. So I'd done all the budgeting. I was like, okay, I'm going to have a kitty. And so, as I'm building up business, but, the strategies that we put in place together, effectively I'm earning what I was earning as a managing partner and director of change and transformation for a digital consultancy. I'm effectively earning that or about that already. And there's really no reason why I can't sustain and grow that. And I think that what people sort of, are scared of is that what if I can't maintain that lifestyle? And the thing I would challenge you with is, especially if you're working at the level I was working at, you are self-medicating and you are self-soothing because you are so stressed. So all of those indulgences you have, whether it be an expensive bottle of whiskey, whether it be expensive dinners, be it trips, abroad, or be it, I remember in one job I was exhausted and I was living in London. I could barely get myself into work. So I got a black cab to work and home every day. And so you expend income in a way to self-soothe. And I'm a true believer, and I'm experiencing the fact that now that I can stop that self-soothing, all of a sudden I don't need as much money and I'm saving a lot more because I'm earning generally the same amount.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that's something that I think you don't really realize when you're in it. But then when you're out of it and you look back, you're like, man, I wish I'd done this so much sooner.
Yeah, absolutely. You know,
Yeah.
instead of having to get a black cab to work or having to rush around and pay for expensive parking in the city because I was too tired to get the train to work, I'm sitting in my garden having a coffee and chilling out and patting my cats. Like, there's a balance that you can achieve. And I think you just got to back yourself. And I think your strategies and helping, you know, me build confidence. I think the other thing I should probably tell people is when I engaged with you towards the beginning of the year, it was purely as an accountability partner so that I could build my corporate presence or my profile, because I thought I'd start a consultancy in 2 to 3 years' time. And here we are, you know, 7 to 8 months later, and I've started my own business. I pulled the ripcord. I'm done. I'm earning an income that's comfortable for me to live on, and working, you know, significantly less hours than what I was in my high paying but high pressure role.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I do love it when you know, I remember having those first conversations and I was like, 2 or 3 years, let's see how fast we can do this. Get ready, Leila, we're going.
Yeah. I would not be here. Like, I'm not even just saying this, but I would not be here and I would not have done it had I not done the self-investment and undertaken this journey with you. So yeah, it's a scary thing, because there is that accountability. You can't just fly heights or dream dreams anymore. There's someone there that's like, no, we're going to do this. Like, let's go. What's your next milestone? And helping you build out those micro goals got me to the point where I was like, oh, I'm running a business now. Yeah. Wake up and it's done. And you're like, oh, this is real. This actually can happen.
John, what do you think was sort of the biggest thing that made a big impact into you getting results that quickly?
I think helping me refine my product offering. So you were the one who really pushed me out of the nest on several accounts. But it would have been really easy for me to lean back into my corporate heritage and keep pitching in at board level to do transformation work, cultural transformation, leadership, that sort of thing. But you kept challenging me and you're like, but is that what you're really passionate about? And I'm like, oh no. So that's why I'm going out in a more B2C model rather than a B2B model, which is where initially my gut would have taken me because it was my safe space. Yeah. And I get so much more enjoyment out of a B2C model. And I'm sure down the line I might lean back into B2B, but this was what I was passionate about. I think holding me accountable to prioritizing my LinkedIn activity. Yeah. And that's been great because the proof is in the pudding, right? Like you started me off with like baby steps. I was like, okay, all right. And I'm getting into it. And then you pushed me. And I was one of those ones. I'm like, I don't want to be doing videos and I don't want to be doing this. And I've found a way to share myself authentically in a way that I'm comfortable with. And for me, it's always been the written word. And so that's what I shape my content around. And it's really helping me not only with my LinkedIn content, but help inform, you know, the type of content I want to have in my website and some of the thought leadership pieces that I'm writing as well. So I think that was really helpful and giving me like baby steps to do things, especially when I was resistant. And as a change leader, I should like be able to spot these tricks from 50 paces, but I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. And I think the other thing was just about making me at the end, when you'd helped me refine my product offering, you helped me understand what my distinct offering was, that I actually went and did it. So when we talk about things like launch dates, pricing, or, you know, I'm terrible. So for anyone that wants to work with me, trust me, I'm terrible. I'd give everything away for free if I could. But Amy was my accountability partner in making sure that I set a rate that was market rate, but that I was comfortable in making sure it was accessible for the people I wanted to be able to help.
Yeah, awesome. And I think, you know, you don't give yourself enough credit there as well, Leila, because it all comes from the implementation as well. And so, you know, I can push you as much as I can and push you in a nice way as well.
Absolutely.
And, you know, but then, you know, you're the one that actually put the strategies and things to action, which is and you're reaping the rewards and the results from it, which is really, really awesome to see.
Yeah, and I think because you've done it, Amy, because you've built a business this way, because, you know, and you have constantly iterated and built on in your success, I think it's nice to work with someone who has done it before. And when you have those crises of confidence or your imposter syndrome, you are really good at just pulling me out of that like rabbit hole, that spiral going, because we all do it when we're trying to make this leap, and it's one of the mental blockers. And I think just knowing that someone had done it and you were helping me with your formula and I could make it my own, built, I think, a really high trust partnership in delivering this, which was really important to me because, you know, in some ways you're a business coach, but let me tell you, I failed with personal trainers on several occasions. So I'm not really a person that likes being told what to do. Who knew? But with you, it wasn't like that. It wasn't that sort of, I'm telling you what to do. It's like, what do you want? Why don't you try this? Trust me, it's going to work, but why don't you try this? And I'd come back and I'm like, yeah, you're right.
I'm like, oh, that's a surprise.
Oh, what a surprise.
Yeah, no, it is awesome. And I think, you know, having that experimental sort of mindset to business is really important as well, because, you know, when you take things to market, it happens a lot for the people that I work with. Like you said, you had one idea in your head to take to market as well. And then we went to market with a completely different idea. And, you know, that can happen and that's okay. And sometimes we think that we've got all the answers, and this is myself included and everyone that I know, until we take it to market, until we actually experiment, we actually test it out with who we want to work with, you know, ultimately we can only get it sort of 80% perfect our way is what I sort of say. And then the market's going to tell us the rest of that 20% that we need to iteration. And it's usually things that we didn't even think of before. And so it's really interesting when that happens. So that's awesome.
I would agree with that. I think the iteration and I guess the letting go of being perfect. I think when you come from a hardcore corporate life, you do have that armor because, you know, it can be quite a sometimes aggressive, sometimes very high stakes environment. And you're used to having to be perfect and covering yourself and covering your backs. And letting go of that and just being okay with let's try it and see if it doesn't work. It's okay to fail was a valuable lesson.
Awesome. And where are you going to take this, Leila? Like we've launched, you've got your first few clients coming through, you'll be delivering your group coaching program as well as some one-to-one clients as well. So where do you actually want to take this moving forward? Let's fast forward sort of 12 months down the track. You know, how big do you want to grow your business? What does life look like for you?
What's funny is that what is really inspiring me is my business model and the way that I can bring people into my business. So I definitely will still have my group coaching and my group workshops and things like that. And then a small number of one-to-one clients that want a more intensive, accelerated outcome. And then I'll still have a smattering of corporate clients, I think, are still in there. But for me, what I'm really inspired by is disrupting business models and the way that we look at profit and our staff. So I'm already looking into different businesses that pay people a full-time salary, but they only work 30 hours a week and working fully flexible hours and ways to make that workable. And looking at, you know, living wages in major cities and the like, because I am a true believer in giving people the opportunity to live balanced lives and have hobbies and families and all of those things, and that workplaces should be able to support that, and that you can engineer a workplace structure to support that.
Absolutely.
So I think that's what, apart from coaching people to hack their own careers to make the system work for them, I also want to create a new system within this corporate life that demonstrates that it doesn't have to be the 9-to-5 grind where we pay people for 38 hours a week, but we realistically expect them to work 50, 60, 70, 80. I want to show that we don't have to do that.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I think you are certainly one to lead the way in that space, because I think we are absolutely up for some huge changes when it comes to the workplace. And we've talked about diversity and we've talked about all these things. And I think we are overdue for a big shake-up. And I love seeing that you're leading the way with your clients in that space. It's really, really cool. So I'm curious to know, Leila, like from your experience working with me and your own experience from making the jump from corporate into your own business, if there was someone on the fence either in doing that, going from corporate into their own business themselves, or potentially working with me, what would you say to them? What would be your advice?
I would say that corporate is a very enticing place because it feels safe. But I've overseen over a dozen restructures in my career, and your jobs are not safe. And I think that you're only really safe when you're creating your own opportunities. And you can do that within a corporate environment, but the power you have to do that in your own business it's unparalleled. So I would say that, the safety and the security of the income and things like that, you really helped me move through that blocker. And you've effectively helped me secure a very livable income upfront when I'm still building my business. So if that's one of your blockers, I would absolutely say work with you on that. The other thing I would say is that if you are wanting to make that sort of change, if you're frustrated, if you're unfulfilled by what you're doing, you have to self-invest. You have to go on the journey. It's not just going to happen. It's not just going to land in your lap. I not only got a business coach, I also got a therapist. And what a blend it was, because there were times when I realized that I was living within a paradigm or a self-limiting belief that I was like, why am I thinking like this? And I wasn't going to make you run my therapy. I was like, you would say, why are you thinking like this? I'm like, really good point. Why am I thinking like this? And then I take that to my therapist and she's like, and as soon as I worked that out, then I could shift through that. So and this is all what I talk about, stacking the deck. How are you hacking this? You can't do it all yourself. So get the support. You're amazing support to me. I wouldn't be doing this right now if I hadn't engaged you. So I can't recommend enough. And what I would say to people is, if you're on the fence about engaging you, it would be because either maybe they're considering another business coach. And if they are, okay, fine. The other thing is, are you just afraid? Like, I'm going to call it out. Are you just afraid that the change might actually happen? Because the worst thing that could happen is they take out all this learning from you, all of these things that they could be doing, and make micro adjustments. And if they're not ready to go live, then, okay, right, do it later, like I was going to 2 years later. But trust me, once they start working with you, Amy, 6 months later, they'll be running their own business. Whether they realize they're going to do it or not.
Usually how it happens. I'm a bit sneaky like that.
I know, like, you're such a and that's the other thing, like, you're a really warm, easy person to talk to. I felt fine being vulnerable with you, and I was like, I'm scared of this. I don't know about this. I don't know why people would engage with me. And you're like, they already engage with you, Leila. Why wouldn't they do it in your own business? I'm like, oh, good point. But sometimes you just need that person to say to you, to hold up the mirror, what's in all, and walk you through it. And I felt like that's what we did together.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I've absolutely thoroughly enjoyed working with you, Leila. I look forward to working with you more in the future as well. And I've just been absolutely floored by your progress. I've absolutely loved to see you launch. And I know that everyone that comes to work with you is going to get a really special experience. And it's definitely, they're going to be way, way better off in their own careers if they come and work with you. So it's been an absolute pleasure. Where can people go and find you and learn more about you if they are wanting to learn more about what you do?
Well, funnily enough, LinkedIn.
Oh, good answer.
But also we have our website that's coming up in November, which is thiscorporatelife.com.au.
Yeah, love it. Already launched, making money before the website. Who knew? Who knew?
Yeah. And coming from a branding and marketing background, of course, my brain was screaming at me going, what are you doing? But then you talked me through it and it was fine.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you today. And really look forward to seeing what's happening for you in the future. I know there's big things ahead.
Thanks so much, Amy.
You're so welcome.